Do you think I could love Lord of the Rings anymore?
I don't feel like the question is, can I love Lord of the Rings more? It's how much more obvious can I be to the world that I love Lord of the Rings?
It's bang on the money, though.
I reckon you got that tattooed around your arsehole.
Not tell everyone. Starting OnlyFans.
The One Ring.
The One Ring. Yes.
Money. Did it hurt?
No.
It didn't.
Very therapeutic.
I shacked him, mate.
Yeah, I liked it. After a while, it was just so-so. So, yeah, I was there a while as well. Watched 3 films.
Did you?
Mm.
Were you just super antisocial?
No, we're still talking and stuff. But I watched The Dark Knight. And I watched Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Good.
It's great, I enjoyed it.
Huh?
Yeah, it was really good. And what was the third film?
Lord of the Rings, probably.
No. Dark Knight. Ghostbusters. Oh, Mad Max Fury Road. Never seen it.
Did you like it?
Wow.
Right.
What an adrenaline rush that film is.
It just goes.
It looks mint. Yeah, it's great. I loved it. I should have took your recommendation years ago.
You should have.
Because it's hellfire and
But it's
brimstone.
alright. You don't listen to me. We'll take my opinion on board.
What do you want to talk about today?
I've been in quite a reflective place this past week. I think it stems from wanting to understand my depression more. Because, I guess you're always kind of asking yourself why. Why am I depressed? What's it linked to? Obviously, you don't need a why. Because, maybe it just is. Maybe you're not wired the way that you are supposed to be wired. So I guess I've been doing a little bit of digging into my personal life to try and, I guess, get to some kind of answer as to why I could have depression. Whether there's any triggers, what's causing it.
Yeah.
If there is a cause. So yeah, I've been doing a bit of research, and I just want to caveat when I say this, I'm 100% not self-diagnosing myself. I'm just looking for answers. And, I've, like many of us do, scrolling through social media, you see content that make linkages between certain, neurological conditions with depression, anxiety, etc. And 2 of the main ones are autism and ADHD. In many cases, the 2 can be linked. They can be completely separate. So I, delved into the kind of symptoms of both. The traits of autistic people. What makes someone autistic, or what makes someone ADHD. What are those things that people experience? So then, knowing these things and whatever, I decided to start kind of documenting my similarities with these symptoms. So symptoms that I have that would place me in a particular bracket.
Right.
And these aren't massively obvious, symptoms or whatever, the usual suspects, etc. that are so generalized, I guess, that almost anyone could probably be oh, no way, that's me. So, the big first one on my list, there's many, is I'm finding myself starting to develop a stutter. And I don't know whether you've noticed when we're having conversations, it's almost like the words either can't come out or the word just completely escapes me, as I am literally about to say.
Neve said that that's like glass shattering. I've noticed you do that a lot.
And it's becoming more pronounced as time goes on, weirdly.
And you come like it comes out like, are you talking about when you go and you can't get and then it comes out a bit like you're annoyed at yourself?
Yeah, because it's there. I know what I want to say, but it's not coming out, and I have no idea why.
Now you've said that, I've seen you do it loads.
Like for the longest time, I'd kind of convinced myself that I've got early onset dementia. Because it's just incredibly frustrating.
I thought you were going to say you were Gareth Gates.
Oh. and you know, like doing research into that they are traits of autism, which is wild because I never would have, I never knew that. Why would you? Another one is, and this isn't too, groundbreaking or whatever, but I absolutely hate change.
Yeah, no. Trying to get you to plug two mics into one device.
Like the idea of change, but not only the idea, the experience of change is something that is just, it sends me off the rails, man.
It's difficult, yeah.
Like I freeze, or I freeze, but also become incredibly frustrated when something does change, or if something doesn't go to plan. And we've seen that this past weekend with
this podcast
things not going to plan. We'll kind of just like sit there and
yeah, you do.
Okay, so what now? It's mental.
That's what I said to you. It's like, come on, let's move on. Like, we have to re-record it. That's just it.
Bro, I'm just sat there like the red thing out of Inside Out.
No. I can hear your brain ticking over. I want to do it again.
Flames starting to come from me.
Yeah, the episode. Everything.
I ain't doing this anymore.
Yeah, no, the podcast. Rip all this down. Yeah, see.
And like another big thing that I've kind of known all of my life is that I mimic other people's personalities in order to feel comfortable around them.
Yeah.
I guess it's when I was at school, I always had, quite big friendship groups. Not only just like, your singular friendship group, but I'd also be like...
You were like me, like you had friends in the goths, you had friends
exactly.
in the chavs,
Yeah. 100%. And, not to say that you'd be like a different person, but you'd lean
Adapt.
into...
Chameleon?
Yeah, 100%. Exactly that. And something I have noticed about that, and something that, like, it's a comforting thing, is that when, I don't have that many people in my life, by choice. And it seems to me that the people that stick around in my life are the people that I don't feel like I need to change my colours for. Like you.
Mm-hmm.
We are so similar. It's wild. I know for a fact that I don't need to change anything about the way I am when I'm with you. And it's the same with like Amelia. Like we're so similar, to a fault sometimes, that, we just don't, I don't need to, change my spots when I'm around. It's wild. And I guess that's why those relationships are ones that stand the test of time, because I'm not, almost masking who I am when I'm around them. So I instantly want to be around those people more. But like, for instance, like, I don't know, work in calls and, work groups, etc. It's just exhausting. I'll quite literally end a call. That is exactly the way that I act.
Me? Yeah.
Or I'll find myself like, speak soon, team. Bye. That is exactly the way that it goes. It's mentally, it's exhausting.
I can relate to that. Yeah, like it's I've done that pretty much my whole life, which we've spoke about really, because I struggle with my identity, so I kind of like whoever I'm around, I'll act like and share like their sense of humor, and I don't know, it's difficult, isn't it? It's their mannerisms and how they act, and it's like I can relate to people at work as well. Like I talk differently. Like there's this one lad who's like he's done some bad shit, and like he's a bit like he's a bit out there. So I'm like out there. So I mean, I'm more
Would you start doing stealing people's dust caps in the car park when you're around him?
But like he's just like I was swearing more and fist bumping people and that's my face when I get you back into the car on my own and I shake it off. It's like it's not me. Jesus Christ, I'm acting like that. But I can relate to that. But I don't know who the I am. So, but yeah, like that's a difficult place to be. But it's good that you're self-aware that like you do change, because I imagine you never used to realise that you did that. It was just like an organic survival mode where like, I just need to fit in this for this period of time. I just need to fit in.
Absolutely, and these are all things that I'm literally starting to recognise now. You know, almost the past few weeks.
How therapeutic is this?
When else would I have, looked into this or spoke about this? And this is the whole point that I'm doing this, is because who else am I going to have this conversation with? Like I said, I'm not self-diagnosing myself. I'm merely speculating. I'm just going to keep this inside.
No, yeah, you are. And now it's like, I'm not diagnosing you either. But like, I'd say like there's some elements of something somewhere.
Exactly. There's something. And it's almost like getting to the bottom of what is that something.
No, I don't think it's nothing severe. It's just little character traits that give the signs of things that you're looking at.
Like another one is, and it's one we've already spoke about, is if it's not a hyperfocus, it's getting neglected insanely. And that goes for relationships as well. And I think it's why it's almost like if it's not in close proximity to me, it's not that it doesn't exist, but it almost doesn't get thought about.
Yeah, I can relate, yeah.
And that makes me feel like an arsehole. Because, for instance, like, I don't live near my family.
Yeah.
Like, I wish that I did more things with my family. I spoke to my family more. But mentally, because they're not next to me, my mind just doesn't think about them.
Yeah.
And saying that out loud does make me feel like a piece of shit. And it grinds on you, and like it's.
But it's very evident that like you do care though, and that comes across, and you couldn't be more plain and blunt in saying that you wish you weren't like that, but you can't have the way that you're wired.
Absolutely.
It's out of sight, out of mind.
It's horrible. Like, the amount of times that Amelia has to say, like, your sister's birthday next week. Did you do anything? It's Mother's Day next week. Have you sent anything? Have you bought anything? And I know it is.
Just put it off.
But yeah, it's like, it doesn't register, it doesn't compute. And it makes me, probably gives the impression that like I'm a person, I don't care. But it's not the case at all. It's just because it's not in my proximity, my mind can't give it the time of day. It's probably like us, our friendship, our relationship for the longest time, we were the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Like for a couple of years, we barely spoke, we barely messaged. And I think it was probably because of that, you moved away. And then just like subliminally, my mind was like, okay, he's not there anymore.
Yeah,
it's the worst.
Yeah. It's horrible.
Because that's not how I thought. I was like, I want to talk to my bro, like I want to, but because, you know, I couldn't see you weren't there. It was just, you didn't exist. That's awful.
It is. It is. And I hope I'm exactly the same. It's the same. And it doesn't help when people like blame you for it.
Yeah.
And like, oh, you never come and it's at the end of the day, when it comes to family and friends, it is a two-way street. It should be equal effort, and I don't think it's fair that, like, I certainly get blamed. I can't speak for your family or anyone else, but I get blamed a lot. Like, you don't come and see us, but we've spoken about that before. It's people live in their bubbles, and it's easy for us to put things off. You know, or leave things till the last second. Because I don't know.
But it's almost like you have no choice when it's the last second.
Yeah.
Then it's like, oh, it's now or never.
That's a big ADHD trait.
I have to do it now.
Yeah, that's ADHD thing is like you leave everything till the last minute, but to the very last minute, and then you just do it all. Like it's crazy.
Because then your mind goes into a hyper focus on it, and you need to do it. So
sense of urgency. But if there's no sense of urgency, you're not gonna. Your brain's not gonna push you in that direction. So when the sense of urgency comes back around, you get moving. Everything's last minute.
Another big one that kind of cripples me and cripples my moods is, I mean, I don't know what the correct terminology for it or whatever, but it's almost like if I have something out of the usual planned, you know, at some point in the day, I can't do anything until that has passed. Say if I've got like a doctor's appointment at 3 o'clock, forget about it. I can't do anything that day. My mind will not be able to focus on anything or anyone until that is past. If it's not in my usual routine and it's out of the ordinary, that day is gone. Paralyzed. I can't do anything until that has been taken care of.
Yeah.
It's the most frustrating thing because, again, it makes you feel like it makes you feel lazy.
ADHD paralysis.
Is that ADHD? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. It's paralysis. You just feels like you just find yourself just sat there or just walking around waiting for this thing, or you can't bring yourself to do it, or you're hyping yourself up. It's just...
I'll quite literally walk around the apartment.
Your brain kind of wants to do other things and knows you should be doing other productive things.
It's telling you you're a lazy piece of shit.
Yeah.
Why aren't you doing this?
But you can't do it. That's why it's called paralysis. You can't do it.
Yeah,
that's another element to it. Maybe that's... Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah. It's brutal.
And like I said, it takes such an effect on your mood.
It does.
It really does.
Because the aftermath of the paralysis, like knowing you should have done that, you beat yourself up more later on. Especially if you waste a whole day and you know you've got to do.
Yeah.
You could have done.
And it's like, but it's a chain of events because, you know, one thing then leads to another. So, you know, you were told that you have to do something for someone's birthday, but you've got that thing on that day that's stopping you from tending to doing that thing that you should be doing. It's a domino effect of is the only way I can put it. It's
horrible.
Just brutal. It is.
And I think it's harder as well for, like, it's hard in life, but for creatives as well, it can be very frustrating. Especially when you've got like ideas and stuff and things brewing that you know you could do, and you just can't bring yourself to do it. It all bottles up.
And those are the things that you do anyway that generally dictate your mood. You know, put you in a good mood when you're working on things that you are so passionate about. But then that gets taken away. Yeah. Coupled with the beating yourself up, the feeling like...
I had a car parking fine that I knew that was quite urgent. I've ignored it, put it off. And I knew I had to sort it out. It was going to go to court. And I couldn't bring myself to physically do it. It's too late. I'm going to get a court letter for it.
Summoned?
Summoned. And probably have to pay extra money. It's just because I just put it off.
But that's not you, that's not you being lazy or neglectful. That's just can't.
Yeah. I knew I should have sorted it. And then I forgot about it, and then it's too late, and it's horrible. Because especially for life, man, when it comes to important stuff like that. Like, I'm useless at remembering birthdays and like school events for the kids. It's like my wife's she's the programmer, head honcho when it comes to that stuff. Planning, because she's got the Sharpie to the fridge. I got a clue, man.
But I think they're probably the most kind of severe things that I've noticed. You know, since kind of reflecting on them all and the symptoms. But you know, when you have those more severe things, you also start noticing other things that are quite amusing.
Go on.
Which I kind of call the silly symptoms.
Damn silly symptoms. Tips.
And this first one's like it's a sensory thing. I've always kind of known that it's like a sensory thing, but I never really put a hat on it. So I hate wearing socks.
Right.
Hate wearing socks. I mean, to be honest with you, I hate wearing clothes. It makes me feel uncomfortable. Like if I wear like outdoor clothes, like, you know, jeans and clothes that you wear to, I don't know, you go out for a meal or whatever, you go out to town. Yeah. Hate it, mate. The second I'm through that door, off and baggy on. Talking about shit, I can't poo with clothes on. I have to in the nude.
My son does that.
Does he?
But he has to have tops off.
Yeah, everything. Yeah. I'm nude. I want you to know that every time I have a at yours, mate, I'm bollock naked.
That's wild.
It's always like, for the longest time, I've always been the case. I have no idea why. It just doesn't happen if
I find that very uncomfortable.
Clothing is touching my skin, or even like a bath mat or something. You know, like if I'm sat on the toilet and like the shower mat is like touching my feet, I have to like push it away.
That's mad.
I just can't do it. It's the weirdest thing.
That is very weird. That's mad.
Bollock naked.
Yeah, bollock naked. Even in like public bathrooms.
I don't do it. I don't in public. And that's why.
With the socks thing, my wife, she can't walk around the house with her feet. She's with her feet. She has to have like slippers on or something on her feet because she doesn't like her feet on the floor.
Different textures and stuff.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah, she's the touch of the tism as well.
Yeah.
She's waiting on her assessment actually. It took 2 years. Yeah.
2 years.
2 years.
That's why I'm having this conversation.
She just had a test for her now. Yeah. She's got her family members do certain write-ups and stuff.
No way. Oh, that.
So you'll have to do something if you want to get to the barrel of this. If you
just continue speculating.
Self-diagnosed.
Like another one that I found massively interesting as well was I mentioned it last episode, but my hyper empathy.
Right.
I can be quite cold. And I think anyone around me knows that I could probably be quite cold. You know, not overly sentimental, not, you know, I guess, you know, romantic or whatever, but, you know, all the time. But then I have moments of hyper empathy. Yeah. More so for people that I don't know. Yeah. So, you know, a thing that comes to mind is I was on the train and I was just looking out the window and this guy he couldn't get his pound coin in the trolley, you know, to get his luggage trolley. And I was watching him do it and he couldn't do it. I almost started crying. And I was just thinking to myself, what are you doing?
Guy with the coin.
But there's so many instances of this where I'll just feel so much like ridiculously excess empathy in certain situations. And I think it goes back to my dear Evan Hansen story. When I, was like crying uncontrollably at the film. Was because I was experiencing hyper empathy for the main character because of the journey that he's going on and the way that he's being treated, how awkward he is, etc. I just couldn't deal with it. It's so wild.
When did you start writing this stuff down?
I'd say a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. Started to like reflect on certain behaviours.
We've joked about it, haven't we? We've spoke about it on the odd occasion, but it's good that you're starting to gather evidence. You should probably look into like getting professional.
I guess it's one of them things though. Like, I guess if I did, then
it'd help you understand a lot more. So you actually know what you're working with. And I know there's telltale signs of different things, but when I started to discover stuff about myself, it certainly allowed me to be more patient and understanding of myself, as opposed to beating yourself up and like, what the coming this way. But it's good. It's good for you to know what avenue and you need to be looking at. So I do recommend that.
No, for sure. I get that. And I think it's important what you said around the patience with yourself and allowing yourself that kind of grace with the way that you are feeling. Because that was what this whole exercise was. It's trying to understand and give myself grace for the way that I'm feeling. Almost get to the bottom of something that I'm still learning about, with depression. Because the whole link with depression is these are all obviously, apart from the silly symptoms, incredibly frustrating things to live with. Like, this world doesn't kind of tailor for that way of functioning. It's not the typical way of functioning. Those aren't typical responses to everyday occurrences. And it gets you down. It fully gets you down to a place that, isn't just sad, it's crippling sometimes.
And then there's the extra pressure of how we're making our loved ones feel around us.
Absolutely.
It's a domino effect, isn't it, on our spouses, kids in my instance. If I'm having a bad day, it's gonna trickle down. And I think the more you know about yourself, it can only help you and others around you.
And it can only
combat that.
Make it easier for the ones around you to know how to support and to know where to, again, give you grace in some situations. Because, I have no idea. So, people around me aren't going to have a clue how to deal with.
They just think, that's the thing.
Little sad boys.
Little sad boys with bad attitudes and short fuses. That's not the case. Like, I feel sorry for my wife sometimes. I can be an overbearing. Like, if I'm not overly too loving and needy, I'm just irritable and angry at myself, and it's the more we learn, the better it can get, I guess. Or I blow my brains out. Boom, boom.
Again, hopefully your life insurance covers that.
Yours does, doesn't it?
I got to wait a year after I took the policy out, though. So
when's that year coming up?
November.
Cashback.
Do you want to know some more of my silly symptoms?
Come on, let's go. I'm here for this. This week I was just gonna listen to you, to be honest. So
steer the ship down.
Steer the ship down.
So, that I rarely use people's names. The main reason for this is because if it's the first time me meeting you, forget it. If you introduce yourself to me, I'm not going to remember your name.
How many times have you called me by my name?
To your face?
Yeah.
Never.
Never?
Not once.
That's true.
12, 13 years. I've not once called you by your name.
That's mad.
But I think it's almost like a product of trying to address people in another way because I've either, forgot their name from that first instance, and I don't want to create an awkward situation around it.
I worked with people at ASDA for 4 years, and I still didn't know their names.
Arsehole.
Sorry. I just don't care enough. We just don't process it. Just don't process that information.
I can only put it down to it being, an overwhelming kind of social thing to do anyway. Meeting people for the first time. For me, there's always, how do you greet someone for the first time? I'm not a hugger.
No.
For people that I've just met, I'm not a hugger. Is a handshake too formal? Is it going to be super formal? Are they expecting a kiss on both cheeks? But these are the things that are going through my head. Other than remember their name.
Yeah, there's too much.
Yeah,
I'm a dead good masker. I am though. I'm good in those situations because I'm too like, oh, okay, this is the way I should be. Yeah. Dead good at masking that shit, but retaining information.
But I've said that to you a lot before. I've said it on the podcast as well. Throughout education, I relied on you so much as a crutch in social situations.
Yeah.
Like you would be the mouthpiece, that kind of intro person to steer those social situations because I had no idea how to. You
have grown though. You have got miles better.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it comes with just, experience and real world experience. Being cast out there on your own, you need to come up with ways to deal with those situations.
Sink or swim in it.
Exactly. Another one is light sensitivity. Don't ever put the big light on.
You're not my wife. Yeah.
Don't ever put the big light on. When I'm in my office, I literally have 2 of these spotlights on.
That's it.
Pitch black. Maybe a candle on sometimes, but yeah, literally 2 tiny LED spotlights of a blue or red light. And that'll be it. And the door is automatic censored. So I'll have to close the door to turn the light off, basically. So every time Amelia comes to check on me and she opens the door and the big light turns on, I'm like Dracula. And it's so jarring.
So what's the next step then? What are you going to do about it now? I think you should go down the avenue of getting tested. It's a long waiting list, so it's going to be a while.
I think it's a conversation with my GP in the first instance. Just to, I guess, further understand things and, to see whether this is anything or I'm just being a massive hypochondriac, making links where links shouldn't be. And like we said at the very beginning of the episode, I'm not diagnosing myself. I'm just trying to understand something deeper than, surface level. So maybe it's a journey. Maybe it's a journey we can go on together.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I guess in the first instance, it's getting the old GP appointment on the old NHS.
Get that booked in, and then because you never stop learning about yourself. You learn something new every day.
And I think when you have something like clinical depression, something that has such a massive impact on your life, you have to do everything you can to try and understand it. Whatever that is. I
think that's a big step of refusing to be defeated by it. Because if you just ignore it and just it'll get the better of you. And unfortunately for a lot of people, it does get the better of them.
Sadly, it does. And they would have never have understood why they were in that, situation in the first place. Why that decided to descend upon them and make them a little sad boy.
Or girl.
Or girl.
Or they.
Or they, them.
Your choice.
Do you want to know the most irritating symptom that I've noticed?
Go on.
So I always have around 5 to 10 seconds of a song in my head. And it won't just be in my head because I have to kind of action it. So I'll have to either tap the beat with my feet, or something I do a lot is like tap my teeth to the beat. And I think this is something that it might be a stim, it's a stim. And I feel like it's a reason that I loved Guitar Hero so much, is because I was kind of satisfying beats that were in my head. And exactly, it's a rhythm, it's tapping. But I swear to God, mate, for the past 13 years, I've had Major Lazer's Bubble Butt in my head.
Bubble butt. Yeah. Bubble butt. No way.
For the past 13 years, that song has been on repeat. Just that riff.
Bubble butt. Bubble butt. Yeah.
And I'll quite literally wake up every morning chattering it with my teeth. I'm walking Daisy. I'm chattering with my teeth. I'm on the train. I'm, doing the beat with my feet. It's almost like I have to listen to something else to drain Bubble Butt out.
Bubble Butt. Of all songs.
Of all songs.
Bubble Butt.
Bubble Butt.
Bubble Butt.
Bubble Butt.
Is a hell of a song.
Hell of a video too.
But yeah, I look forward to seeing you go on this journey.
Yeah, let's see what it is, see if there is anything there, see if this, and these symptoms that we spoke about, they may not be linked to any of the conditions we've been talking about. They are just...
It's simply speculation at this point.
Exactly. They are just symptoms to do with those... what do you even call them?
This,
conditions? I don't know.
Be careful, Dan. Be careful.
No. This is our platform, and we will say whatever we want.
On that note.
Yeah. So, we'll see.
We'll get there.
Let's go on this journey together.
Yes.
He's been around him. What you do, Caps?